I felt I had to get to the bottom of the complex man-made crop circles in order to fully understand what is going on. Okay, now tell me about the Doug and Dave characters, because they are often cited as being responsible for a lot of crop circles. Prominent in the early 90s and late 1980s, am I right there, Dave?
90, 91 and 92.
So tell me about those two guys, because they were a lot of the circles at that time were put down to these two guys.
Yeah, Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley.
Yes,
yeah.
They were roped in, forgive the pun,
Right.
well, I think by used, set up, encouraged, because I think in those days John Lumberg and his team weren't producing so many. It was in their early days.
Okay, so John Lumberg, he's responsible and admits to being responsible for some of the very complex formations, and he even has a website which promotes that. Yes. Circlemakers.org.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's a good website to have a look at, because people can really see how these complicated formations are created. Because that's a problem people have. They see these wonderful aerial shots and they think, how can that possibly have been made by people with planks? Well, if you go on the site, he'll show you how they're made.
I mean, that was our initial reaction when you see these fantastic formations. It's this thing, how can you do this in the dark, in a field, in a few hours of darkness? And in the summertime, you only get a certain amount of darkness.
But in our opinion, the whole Circle Makers website and Lumberg and Co. are all part of a disinformation campaign. Yeah. Originally, we feel possibly funded by government. Yeah. There was certainly a link on the Circle Makers website, which was a recruiting banner, which took you straight to a government recruitment for MI5. We do believe that the genuine crop circles are extremely important, and that government has known this for a long time, and that is why teams, well, that particular team, the Lumberg team, Team Cayton, as it originally was called, I believe were inaugurated in order to throw sand in the eyes of researchers so that they wouldn't be able to see easily which were genuine and which weren't. So let's just take a close look at John Lumberg, who is the alleged ringleader of the organisation creating the complex crop circles throughout the 1990s and up to the present day. After leaving school, Lundberg studied fine art at Middlesex University. Then, in 1992, did a master's in sculpture at the Slade School of Fine Art in central London. At this time, literally next door to his art school, was the anonymous headquarters of MI5. It housed the Director General and some of the most top secret and controversial of MI5's active service units. Lumberg's final year at university was spent studying next door to this secret office. It's well known that intelligence agencies often recruit agents in their final year of university. So when did Lumberg actually start making crop circles? On his own website he claims he started in the early 90s, which presumably means after he finished art school in 1992. Wikipedia discusses a crop circle he made in 1993, so it would seem 92 or 93 is the year he started. In other words, shortly after leaving Slate Art College, which was next door to MI5. Considering some of the actual crop circle designs themselves, I personally do not think these circles have been designed by the mind of an artist. This example shows the number pi encoded in degrees of arc around a circle to 9 decimal places. This has been designed by a mathematical mind, not an artistic mind. That is not to say that Lundberg and his team do not implement these patterns, just that it is unlikely they have designed them. Robert Hulse and David Cayton allege that advertisements for jobs in MI5 have been placed on the Circle Makers website. These adverts no longer exist, but there are other references to MI5. After logging onto the site, if one clicks View Source to view the HTML code behind the website,
we can view the keywords which the person designing the site has assigned to the site. The second keyword is MI5. Other keywords include British Security Service, spy, intelligence, CIA, espionage, and terrorism. Further references to MI5 can be found in the text itself. Here, Lundberg teases Colin Andrews about funding, and I quote, "Well, it looks like veteran crop circle researcher Colin Andrews might be forced to get a real job. He's posted an urgent appeal for funds on his website. If all else fails, Colin could join MI5 PSYOPs department and retrain as a crop circle maker." Now, you might think these references are just too blatant, but I believe there is a degree of double bluffing going on here. Another fact I found peculiar about the website is its hosting arrangement. The Circle Makers site is hosted in Pittsburgh in the United States. It's fairly unusual for British organizations to host their sites in America. I checked the Whois register, which is the Internet Register of Domain Names, to see if there was any useful information. As expected, Lundberg is listed as the owner. The administrative contact, however, is listed as John Curzak from Michigan, along with his phone number. I telephoned the number, but that number is no longer assigned to a John Curzak. He has presumably moved on from the Michigan address. I searched for John Curzak in the American White Pages. Curzak is quite a rare name, and I found there was only one John Curzak in the whole of America. Curzak is a 61-year-old colonel in the United States Air Force, still in active service at Randolph Air Base in San Antonio, Texas. I telephoned Curzak and asked him about the Circle Makers domain name. He seemed genuinely to have no knowledge of the site. It is my belief that Curzak himself did not register his own name because the surname listed in the Whois database is spelt incorrectly. It has been spelt with a C. An easy mistake to make with this name, but not if it is your name. This suggests to me that somebody was just using his name. An administrator name was probably required when purchasing the domain name. The US Air Force connection is very intriguing. In 1995, when the Circle Makers site was set up, Curzak took a military commission, tying him more closely to the Air Force. Perhaps it's a big leap of assumption, but in the town where Curzak works, there is another US air base called Lackland Air Base, which just so happens to be the headquarters of the US Air Force Intelligence, Surveillance and Reconnaissance Agency. At this base, there are 1,000 technical personnel involved in a range of activities. It's a big leap, but perhaps this is where the crop circles are designed. And what about financial arrangements? If the Circle Makers have spent the last 17 years flattening crop fields, how have they managed to earn a living? What are their business activities? I searched the online CreditSafe database, which lists directors of all UK companies, past and present. I found that in September 1999, Lundberg set up 3 companies. These were called Developmental, whose activity is listed as other computer-related activities, Vagrant, listed as other business, and Stimulant, listed as other business. Stimulant Limited did not trade and was dissolved some time later. Lundberg's partner in these businesses was Matt Glubb, a talented web designer whose role was probably to work on the Circle Makers website. From the figures available, both of these companies had minimal assets and cash. It is unlikely they were successful, as they were both eventually dissolved. So where were they getting their funds from? An interesting quote on the Circle Makers website alludes to the fact that Lundberg and Glubb were being funded by somebody. I quote, "You'd be surprised how expensive running a successful website can be. But don't panic, we're not going to ask you for money. Our retainer from sources we'd rather not disclose has kept our virtual head above water."